couple more people coming in. All right. Good morning, everybody. So great to see all of you and all your faces. It's wonderful. Hopefully I'll see you in person someday. I really miss that. Really miss seeing you all in so I'm looking forward to that very much. So hopefully you're here for the meeting around the K-3 statewide professional learning literacy project. Yes. So I'm so glad that you're all here, and I just wanted to actually say thank you for those of you who have sent. I've had an overwhelming amount of just really positive emails saying thank you so much for this proposal and for doing this. It takes some work off of me, and just it's been so nice to hear those happy emails. Working at the state, sometimes we don't hear those positive emails as often as some of the other side of emails. So just know that I appreciate all of you so much and everything that you're doing. I know it's been a tough year, and so I'm grateful to a lot of time with all of you in several different times. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. I think for the most part, we have the majority of people here. Oh, I was wrong. A couple more. Okay, so much. I'll continue to let people in as we go along. Thanks so much for coming to this informational. If you will, I can't quite see the chat room and the screen and all those at once. So if you wouldn't mind, you can either unmute when you have a question, or I'm hoping that I will have a lot of your questions answered by the end, and then I've saved quite a bit of time at the end for questions because I want to make sure you all, like, your needs have been met and your questions were answered. So to start with sort of the intent here. You can't see this in front of me because of the way my laptop is situated on my desk, but in front of me in bold and all caps is what is best for kids. So whenever I think about what I'm going to do, what decisions I'm making, how I'm going to go about it, that's my go-to, what is best for kids. So I'm sure all of you have something similar. You might even have something framed in your office. Mine is just on a tiny whiteboard, so it's probably not as fancy as yours, but I recognize that sometimes what's best for kids is uncomfortable or inconvenient. I completely get that. And sometimes we have pushback in those sorts of things. So I get if you're sensing some frustration either with yourself or within your LEA, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But just know that's the intention of why we're doing this. So I also know that teachers also want what's best for kids. And so I hope we're all just kind of keeping that in mind today. So on the screen, you have a 47%. 47% is the percentage of students at the end of our state who are reading at grade level. Hopefully you're thinking, whoa, that's not okay. I hope the same way that I do, that's a very alarming percentage. So less than half are read on grade level by the end of grade 3. That needs to change. So the purpose and the why, in addition to, of course, we want to do this because it's what's best for kids, is addressing that learning disruption, improving the stagnant early literacy outcomes that we've had for years. So it's not just this year, we've had this stagnant data for quite some time. And also focusing on equity. That's sort of how each of the LEAs were chosen. This specific professional learning was proven in outcomes in other states, in other realms. It has an evidence base. It's been studied in a few different third-party organizations. It aligns to the strategic plan and the USPE professional learning standards and an allowable use case for the ESSER II funds, which is what we'll be using the state ESSER II funds, not your own LEA ESSER II funds. So who? Let me move this bar so I can actually see some of you. So the who, it's required for 69 LEAs based on the middle of year Acadians reading data. I've had some people ask, why we didn't use end of year data, and it's only because we don't have it yet. So we can't use it. So we were requested to use the most recent data, which we did. So if you were invited to participate in this, and by participation, it is required, it is mandatory, but it was because less than 60% of were making typical or better growth in at least 4 demographic areas. So it wasn't necessarily this. We looked at it with an equity lens and thinking about at least 4 of the many demographic areas aren't making that kind of typical growth. And so that's why your LEA was chosen. I also had about 4 or 5 LEAs email me very upset that they had data that wasn't wasn't in a realm that they could be chosen. So if you have any friends in that realm, tell them I'm sorry. I don't have room for that. So
Sure.
I'll keep letting people in. Oh, was there a question?
Yeah, can I just ask quick, how would we know what the 4 areas we qualified for this are?
Yes, so if you attended the literacy director meeting or the assessment director meeting, you would have gotten the middle of year data, which has the demographic data within it. And if you aren't sure if you received it or if someone else on your team received it and you would like the Excel spreadsheet sent to you, just shoot me an email and I'd be more than happy to send that to you again. If you can't find it, happy to do that. And thanks for unmuting and asking a question. That was so great. So what this would include is, as far as the required populations, it would be all of your K-3 gen ed and special ed teachers within your LEA, all the literacy or instructional coaches, or have some districts and charters have different titles for this person. I think in David, coordinator, so whatever you call that coaching type position that is supporting literacy, if they're supporting the K-3 teachers, then they are also required to attend. All elementary principals and vice principals in the LEA, and then all of the elementary school psychologists, but you'll notice there's that little asterisk. Some of the districts and charters have sort of a contract with like a consulting firm for school psychologists, so they're not necessarily an employee of your LEA. So the only ones who are required to attend are the ones who are actually employed by your LEA, not like a contracted type situation. If you have school psychs who are in that contracted situation, you can certainly ask if they would like to be part of it, but because they're not an actual employee of your LEA, we can't enforce making it mandatory for them. So I hope that sort of clears that up. I know that's kind of a weird, hold on, I think there's some more people needing to come in. And then what it doesn't include, and this is only because of the amount of funds, unfortunately, we could not fund interns, paraprofessionals, interventionists, tutors, or LEA, meaning like district or charter level staff. So those 4 bullet points are the required populations to attend. We can't afford to train those others listed at the bottom, again, just due to funding.
Sarah?
Yes.
I just have a question. When it comes to licensing and you say intern, and we have a teacher who's teaching K-3, but is still classified as an intern because they might be finishing student teaching or something, does that disqualify them from attending?
Great question. So by interns, I was thinking an administrator intern or that type of situation. If they're actually teaching a class, they're the main teacher, then they would be considered a teacher. So thanks so much for asking that. That's a great question.
And same with like LEA specific licenses, because that kind of is the same idea as an LEA employee.
Yep, absolutely.
Clarifying.
Sarah, I have a quick, I'm so sorry. I have a quick question too. So when it says, so I'm thinking, you know, toward the end of this year, we have some teachers who are not returning and I have an interventionist who's going to move into a grade level position. So should I bring the teachers who will be with us next year only?
Thanks so much for asking that, Lacey. So because this won't be able, just because of the purchasing and state requirement timeline, we won't be able to start until after this fiscal year, which is going to be after the school year ends. So it would be the staff for next school year, not this one. That's a great question. I'm so glad you brought that up. And then I noticed questions in the chat room. I want to make sure I get that. Christy's asking, would SPED speech be included? So your speech language pathologist would not be included, just be your special education teachers, not speech language pathologist specific. And then
you answered mine
okay,
already.
great. Perfect. Thanks.
So Sarah, when you say special ed, we have so many here in Alpine that might be a mild moderate, that might be like we have schools that are like Dan Peterson and Summit. Like, are you just talking special ed in an elementary setting supporting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Thanks, Michelle. I appreciate that's another good question. You guys have the best questions. And I did base some of these things off of the questions that were asked or emailed to assume that others have those same questions. So these are great. Keep them coming. I appreciate it.
Sarah. Peggy.
Oh, yes.
I'm not sure. Sarah, I'm wondering, Salt Lake City, is it the resource special ed teacher? It would not be a unit then. Is that correct to assume?
Tell me more about what you mean by units.
So units would be kids that are, in essential elements. So they're more life skills. We also have units for behavior disordered. We also have units for, just specific, but they're more, it's more of a student that's at a higher level of need.
Thanks for asking that. I'm going to contact our special education department and just get some clarity around that specific question. And so then I will send it, when I send out the recording, I will just put the answer to this question within that email so that you'll all be able to receive it and see it. So thanks so much.
Sarah, hey, Sarah, when you ask that question, I think it would be really important to not exclude teachers of SEL classrooms. So, I think mild moderates probably, I think severe is a different story, but mild moderate, whether or not they're in a special class, I'm not sure if that makes a difference. So when you ask that, can you clarify that component?
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. I'm happy to. I made myself a little note. Thanks so much.
Sarah?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, one more. As I've been going through the letters training, I see how much speech is critical in this, and with that phonemic awareness and being able to say those sounds. And I keep thinking this is great for speech, but are they considered an interventionist or are they considered a SPED teacher?
They're considered a specialist. And so because they only offer a specific type of, like they have a specific license and training, we couldn't afford to pay for them as well. So that's why they're excluded, not because I don't think it wouldn't be beneficial. So I agree with you completely. It's just a matter of funds.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. And then I think, yes, I can absolutely send the slides. If you guys think that would be helpful, I'd be happy to do that with the recording email as well. That will be really easy. And then, oh yes, Savannah, I will actually be getting to that question in just a moment. So hold your thought on that. Okay.
Sarah, this is Cody. Just real quick, would it be possible to pay for elementary interns to also attend? It's just so important to us that as there's turnover, we have principals, we have incoming principals with the same information.
Sure. You can absolutely pay for that with your own funds. They just won't be able to be part of this state contract. So,
so they won't be able to attend the same cohort.
No, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I know there's been sort of some misconceptions around what Letters is, and so I want to make sure to address those with everyone today. So Letters is not a program and it's not a curriculum. It's very specifically an ongoing job embedded professional learning environment where teachers will be getting, teachers, coaches, and everyone in the population that we talked about will be getting a deep knowledge of the science of reading and how to teach students how to read, even if they're struggling. So if they have students who are struggling with dyslexia, the strategies, the information that they gain will work for all students. It will work for students who are multilingual learners, students who are in the special education setting. So that's the reason it was chosen, is because of that deep knowledge. I know a lot of people who've taken it have said that they wish they had gotten it in their teacher prep program because it's something they needed right out of the gate and they didn't feel like they quite had that. And I would like to share that there is a district in our state who has been doing letters this whole year. And we spoke with a third grade teacher who was, you could say, flaming mad because she was required to do it by her district. And she actually wrote a very nice letter and said that she admits that she was beyond angry because of COVID and other things. And then this was just one more thing and just super mad about it. And then once she got past the first few units, she was actually writing thank you letters to, this is so great. I didn't realize how much I needed this, and has already seen a change in her instruction and has already seen a change in her outcomes. And she's not even through the whole thing yet. So it was really nice to see that from someone who was really upset. Yes, and I agree, Janie. And yes, Jason knows exactly who I'm talking about. So thanks for that, Jason. I appreciate it. So I'm just look at this slide. It just gives you sort of a summary of what Letters 3rd edition is. You may have been trained on some of their older versions. And so because of that, you may not be aware of the 3rd edition, which is their newest one and the one that has the proven outcomes. So I'm just going to give you a minute quiet so you can actually go through and read sort of what Letters is about. So hopefully that gives you a little bit about the why, the how, that type of thing for this edition. In addition to that, it really, you can read the slide as well, but it's really just talking about what it will provide for teachers, what kind of knowledge, sort of understanding what would be provided. I know some of you that I see here are already trained on this and have been or love it. I've been trained on it twice. I've been lucky to have that option given to me. So I will say, even going through it a second time, I took even more away from it again. So it was pretty exciting. And then, yes, you are correct. If you were invited, one of those 69 LEAs, it is a requirement. It is mandatory, yes. And then as far as the cost, so Simon, I think your question is around, you have some reading paras that you absolutely want to be a part of this, and what is the cost? So Simon, if you wouldn't mind, would you email in the chat box? And then I'm going to have someone from my team send you an email real quick that has sort of the breakdown of what the cost is, just so you are aware in case you're wanting to have those paras trained. Christine, I know you're on this. Can you email Simon when he puts the email in the chat box, please?
Yep. Hey, Sarah, are the administrators going to get letters for administrators, or are the administrators going to go through the teacher one?
Yes, absolutely, Missy. We will be going over that in just a second. Yes. And then Lacey is asking for that same information. So Christine, when you send it to Simon, we also send it to Lacey and Anna Lynn. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. So, yes, Julie, you are correct. Everyone that's invited to this session as one of those 69 LEAs is required to participate. Yes. And thanks, Anna, for putting your email in the chat box. Oh, and Carrie Greener, Christine, you can add Carrie Greener to that list as well. Maybe just hold off on sending that for just a hot second. And Melissa Jepson as well. Tracy, I don't have a link that's just to the cost. It would be a whole bunch of other information in different parts of the website. So that's why I think an email might be best. So you don't have to try and weed through all of it. I can just have Christine send it directly. It looks like there are others. So Christine, I will let you I will let you take that under control. As far as the Letters 3rd edition, specifically Letters 3rd edition will be for teachers and coaches. So looking at that, it has 8 units. You can see the titles of the units, and then there's actually, when I send this out, I put a link in here in the chat box that if you are wanting to see all the details, like this type of information here on all of the 8 units and what it includes, you are welcome to take a look at that. It's not required. If you're wanting that deeper knowledge of more than just the titles and actually the specific topics, you are welcome to take a look. So just know that that's in there if you are wanting to look at it. And then, yes, thanks for asking this, Missy. For principals, vice principals, and school psychs, they will be part of the letters for administrators. So it's a little bit different. You can read sort of the details on the slide here, but basically it's a much more condensed version. And because they're in more of a supporting manner than a teacher, that's why their version is a little bit different. Professional learning is actually only 2 days and then some online instruction and some reading. So it's a much shorter condensed version. We also know that it's really hard for principals to be out of the building. So we didn't want them to have to go through the entire 8 days of professional learning.
Sarah?
Yes.
So I've gone through this one while my team is going through the other. And the one thing about this one is it really does start off just giving a quick snapshot really of the most essential things in 1 through 8. And then it goes on to the rest of the things listed here. And so it's really good for administrators. Like being an administrator, if I would have had that, I would have been, well, and plus they get to know exactly what their teachers are doing, but they don't have to go through the whole thing because it starts out that way. So it's really good.
Oh, thanks, Michelle. I appreciate it. From someone who's already done it. I love it. Just letting some more people in the room here. So sorry for the delay. Oh, Lacey, great question. The professional learning, will it be in person or will it be virtual? So the hope is that it will be done virtually, especially since we won't be able to start till like next school year. We're hoping that the pandemic will only get better from here on out. I think we're all hoping that actually. So certainly if CDC guidelines say that we have to do virtual, then we will do that, but the hope is that we will be able to do them all in an in-person setting. So yes, thanks for asking that.
Sarah, will you offer both? You know, some of us are really far away from Salt Lake, so to travel and send teachers out there, virtual might be a nice option for some of us.
Thanks for adding that, Tana. So we'll be talking about this, but we will be doing regional training or regional professional options. So it won't just be in Salt Lake.
Oh, perfect. I was like, that's a long way for some of us.
Yep, I have made that drive many times. I totally. Letting some more people in, and then, okay. So, Courtney, will you be able to do it during the summer? This summer, I will say maybe. It depends on how long the state purchasing process takes. I'm not holding my breath on it just because I know it usually takes several months, and then we don't have a board meeting in July, which means if we can't get it on the June board meeting, which means we'd have to have all the contracts and everything done by May, because we have to submit everything 3 weeks before the board meeting, then we'd have to wait till August for the board to approve the contract. So because of that process, it just takes several months, and I wish I could make it go faster. I can't. So I wouldn't say hold your breath about summer either. Next summer, certainly, because we'll already be within that realm, but this summer, I don't think it's very likely. And then asking, does this help the administrator understand what they will be looking for in a classroom setting? And Michelle, since you spoke to it, maybe you can add to that, but I know we will also be providing as a resource, USB will providing some resources around that very thing, but Michelle, I'll have you chime in as well.
Yeah, it does. Like if you go through this, like administrators know like what to look for in a program, how to set up their data, everything that it says here. It was really good. So it will be very helpful for an administrator going into classrooms and figuring out literacy in their school.
Thanks, Michelle. And then Jason asked, will administrators who are participating in letters training right now, so I'm assuming, Jason, you mean the like letters 3rd edition, not for administrators, will they now need to take the administrator one? And the answer is yes. And then Yes, Tana, I agree. I do think having the professional learning stuff during summer is hard because there's a bridge to practice component where you are actually working with students chosen. And it's really hard to do that in the summer unless you're running like summer school or you have kids that you're tutoring or that type of thing. That can be tricky for sure. So the presenter, I don't know who the presenters will be because we're going to have about 212 cohorts running simultaneously. And so it will be a lot of people from the vendor, but they said that they do have enough national trainers, so that will be possible.
Okay, so Sarah, on that note, that's what I was thinking too. Like Alpine has like 7 trainers, but the way this cohort's going to work is they're going to use national trainers for this. Then we can use ours for, I don't know, whoever we want, I guess.
Yes, Michelle, absolutely. If you have people who are considered state trainers for letters, which we do have about 70 in the state. So if you are one of the LEAs that does have that group of people in there or housed in your LEA, they won't be able to do any of these trainings because the contract only allows for their national letters trainers. But they would be extremely helpful in thinking about scheduling, thinking about additional coaching, because they obviously have a very deep background in it because they actually had to attend more professional learning than anyone else will be asked to do. And in addition to that, they can help with any additional cohorts you may want to run, like for pairs or that kind of thing. They can also help with if there are other districts who didn't get invited, they're not one of 69, they can certainly support them in providing training as well. So there are some different options, but if you have them housed within your district, that is absolutely a bonus at this point.
So Sarah, I know I emailed you this, but it's a piggyback on what you're answering now. I guess within the email you originally sent, it said you could propose an alternate plan. As your alternate plan, could you propose to have your own on-site trainer do this as opposed to participating in the national trainers version? I just feel like that would give us so much flexibility in terms of timing, and I'm really concerned about like the sub requirements and some of the other things involved in a different schedule. So if we can do the exact same thing on site, can we propose that as an alternate?
So great question, Emily. I'll be talking about that in a few slides.
Okay.
If you can hold on to that one, that would be great.
That's fine.
Courtney, to answer your question, will it help admin that don't have a literacy background? Yes. Will the state pay for subs? That will be coming soon. Will coaches who have recently completed letters training need to participate? So I have an entire list of every person in Utah, every educator in Utah who has completed all of the requirements. So if you don't know who in your LEA has and won't need to be participating, I have that list and can help you figure that out. So if they've already completed all of the requirements that we're asking, then no, they don't have to do it again. But if they want to do it a second time, I will allow that. Like, I'm okay with that. I will pay for that. Is there a cost for coaches to train paras? So anyone who's getting this professional learning can't then train other people. That's not allowed. Louisa Motes, the author of the program, would never allow that. So that's why we have nationwide trainers. So it would be an extra cost carry to train if you wanted. It wouldn't be part of the state contract. Yes, Justin, I can do that. Yes, Anna, they can do that. Oh, letting more people in. Yes, Courtney, it does because of the contract and the timing of the funds. And then administrators are not part of who we can afford to pay. So if they want to be a part of it, then they would need to, that would need to be something that the LEA would pay for. And yes, it is recorded. Thanks, Lanny. Oops, too far. So as far as what each of these components include for Letters 3rd edition for teachers and coaches, we have 8 full days of professional learning, online coursework, which needs to be completed prior to each of the professional learning. So I'll give an example. There's online coursework for Unit 1 that needs to happen prior to them attending the in-person professional learning for Unit 1. And then there's online work for Unit 2, and then the in-person Unit 2 professional learning. So it kind of goes like that. Each of the 8 online modules takes about 12 to 15 hours to complete. Some people can even get it done in 10, and should occur across like a 6 to 9 week period, just because you don't want someone to just plow through it. You want them to have time to do that, and I would hate for anyone to have to feel like they're rushed. And then of course, plus reading time, because a book is part of the materials. And then there's also a bridge to practice piece within the online modules that they would be doing with students. For letters for admin for principals, VPs, and school psychs, it's 2 full days of professional learning, and then online coursework, which is much more minimal. It only takes 8 to 10 hours to complete, plus of course reading time. The difference is the letters 3rd edition for teachers and coaches takes 2 years to complete, but letters for admin, the license is only for 1 year because it's so much less professional learning time that's why it's only a 1 year instead of a 2-year license.
Sarah, those 8 full days is that over the 2 years? So like 4 days the first year, 4 days the second? Okay.
You got it, absolutely. So then implementation expectations. So obviously school leaders and coaches are expected to support the teachers within your own LEA to implement the knowledge and the skills and the strategies within their classroom instruction. I know that your school leaders and coaches are already really great at supporting teachers, so I'm not super worried about that. The required participants obviously have to complete all of the requirements before the deadline of this project, which is September of 2023, because that's when the ESSER funds are no longer. And then the letters bridge to practice piece of the online course is a requirement. That's the actual taking the knowledge that they're learning in that course and working with kids to improve their instruction. So they're actually practicing what they're learning. It's sort of that implementation jump. And then let me move this so I can actually see. And then a completion of the quizzes. The quizzes are short. They're like 5 questions at the end of each unit. And then there is a pre and post assessment that sort of unlocks their coursework. And so we want to make sure everyone's doing that or they won't have access to anything else. It's also the way we're gathering data to do our own sort of state study. So just note that that's part of the dashboard. And they will be, again, like I said, it will unlock their courses. So if we have people saying, oh, I can't get in my course, that's why they haven't done the sort of pre or post test. So just keeping that in mind. As far as scheduling and logistics, the potential, like I said, we're hoping all of the contracts and everything can be ready to go so that we can begin the online portion of the work in August as like the earliest of the cohorts. And that October would be the earliest, then we could probably provide in-person professional learning. The reason for that is we want to give people enough time to get the online work done before the in-person training instead of having to rush through it on a weekend. That would be a little stressful. It is a 2-year timeline, like I said. There will be regional locations and each of the cohorts cannot exceed 40. And so that's a requirement of the vendor. So that's why it's not a SARA requirement, it's part of the contract. Emily's asking, teachers who leave after year 1 or join in year 2, is there a rolling requirement or does this apply to who those are employed? So great question, Emily. As far as we'll be asking you for the number of teachers you have. And so if this is someone who's replacing someone, they would sort of take that person's place within the session. We will have a rolling start is a good term for it. I don't want you to think that everyone of these 69, like everyone's not starting on the same day. That's not possible. That's not possible for you. For scheduling logistics, it's not possible for us, or I don't think it's even possible for the trainers. So there will be a rolling start. So if you feel like a teacher in August isn't a good time, that's okay. They can start later. And then, yes, Patrick, I'll be getting to that shortly. So because we know that this is probably the scarier piece that I've gotten, I think, the most questions around, I want you to know that we're going to do this together. There will be numerous Midas signups because one, I absolutely understand that I don't want anyone to think the entire district of Alpine is going to be trained on the same days. That there's no way that Alpine could find enough subs in the entire nation probably at once to take the place of 900 teachers. That's on one day. It's not possible. We know that. So there will be various Midas signups. I will have you work with your schools and figuring out, hey, this is how many subs we can have max. So we can't have more than blank number of teachers out of the school in a day, because I don't want you to have that sub issue. So that's an open conversation and collaboration with all of you around how we work through that. Like I said, Unit 1 will be starting different times, so that will only help with this sub issue. And then also I will be working with you to determine dates and regional locations. So if you're thinking about, you already have lots of spaces within your realm that could house 40 people, let me know. We will be working on that very shortly. So know that that's coming, and we will be working with all of you on that. It's not something we're going to do without you. And then as far as who pays for what, so because this is a state contract and state funds, the online coursework is something the state is paying for. The in-person professional learning or virtual pending COVID-19 will be paid for. We will pay for all the materials and books, and then also travel of the national facilitators. So you won't have to worry about any of those things. What LEAs may have to pay for, and I say may because there may be substitute costs. That's probably a pretty likely one. You may want to offer stipends, although please know it's not required. That's completely up to you. And then any travel of LEA personnel. So even though we're doing regional locations, I completely understand if by chance there's someone who is out sick the day that it rolls into your region and maybe has to go somewhere else, or they had something come up where they were in a wedding, whatever. And so therefore they couldn't make the regional one. They may need to have some travel paid for, right? So that is completely up to you as an LEA. But there are 3 different funding sources, at least that I'm aware of. There may be more that you can use to fund these things. So you could use your own LEA ESSER 2 funds. You could use your professional learning grant funds. We are already aware that that's an allowable use for those. And I know that you're also getting an increase in TSSA funds this year. So that's another potential funding stream that you could use to pay for these things. And you could even choose to pay for different schools out of different funds to make it work, whatever your BA, your business administrator feels will be the best option. And then as far as the application process, yes, Shelley, you're right. You could use your ESSER funds. As far as the application process, so if you are going with letters, there is no application process for you because I've already completed it and approved it. So just know that I took care of that for you. The ESSER funds, because they're federal dollars, have a lot of requirements. So the proposal that I sent was the shortened summary version of it. It wasn't the entire proposal that I was required to create and have approved. So just know that if you're choosing something other or would like to provide an option other than that, there will be a robust application process, again, due to these federal requirements. So just know that it won't be brief. I'm sorry, it's just due to the requirements. So you would have to meet all of those things that are on the slide right now as far as what would be required as part of that. And please know, I know I've had people ask, well, can it be math? No. Can it be PLCs? No. It has to be on the science of reading. So it has to be the same topics being covered, because that's the whole purpose of this, is to improve literacy outcomes in the really great classrooms. So I hope that helps. If this is something that you are interested in, shoot me an email and we can chat more, or if you have questions, let me know. I'm unaware of any LEAs right now choosing other than letters, so you'll have to let me know. And then some questions and answers that I've received ahead of time. What if our LEA has already started with letters? It would be offered to them again, of course. I said I would pay for that, but it wouldn't be required because they already completed all of the requirements. As far as who receives the money, like I said, it's state money, so it's a state contract. So none of the LEAs will actually be receiving funding for it. It will all be housed in this one large contract. Can you use your own facilitators per the contract? No, it would have to be the national letters trainers and facilitators. But like I said, in the past, a little bit, you can use those state letters facilitators who are housed within your own LEA to support connections to your curriculum, additional coaching and support in classrooms, all of those things. That would be fine. The materials will actually be shipped directly to your district or charter office, so I'll be requesting addresses for that. And then if you already have the materials or a contract with letters, I did ask Voyager about this. They said that they will not reimburse or refund any purchases already made. So if you are about to make a purchase like this week, I would definitely hold off because you won't be able to get your money back. If you have cohorts already set up that include educators in other grades or like paraprofessionals or some of those other populations that you all mentioned, those cohorts would have to be dispersed because we can't pay for those other grades and other populations. And then, like I've already talked about the state letters facilitators, it doesn't actually affect what they're going through, that group of 70. None of this affects anything that they're doing or any of their trainings. They will continue moving forward with what we have. And then as far as what other LEAs are offering for stipends, I have heard some are offering none, some are offering $500, some are offering $1,000. So stipends aren't required. But if that's something you want to offer, I know people have asked what are others doing, so that's sort of the range that I've heard. And then as far as SUU credit, I don't have an answer yet, so I can't answer that one, but I know we will for sure be offering USB credit since it will be in MIDAS. And then I'm actually going to, yes.
Can I ask a question about districts who are already doing letters? Because we as a district purchased for K-5 teachers, they did all year one this year and they'll do year two next year, but we've already paid for year two. We bought it as a 2-year contract for everyone K-5. So are we just out that money? Can we continue to do what we're doing and run our own? Like
So you can't continue to run it on your own. You already have the materials. I'll just be paying for the trainers now. So you would want to cancel this. I believe you guys have state trainers, if I know who's speaking right now.
And we have state trainers coming, or we have trainers through letters that have already come out this year, but I believe it's already all paid for year 1 and 2. So that's like a big hit if we don't get a refund.
So you should, per state procurement policies, which all of you also have to follow, you shouldn't have paid for anything that hasn't happened yet, because that's illegal purchasing policy. So I would think the only thing you've paid for right now would have been anything that's done, any professional learning that's done, and the books. That should have been it.
Okay. I don't know that.
So
Okay.
Sarah,
Yep.
Sarah, I have a question. And this is a dumb question, but administrators want to. No, it really is, because when I say it, like I just want to choke administrators sometimes. But they were like, okay, well, what if we have a teacher that just doesn't want to do it?
So we'll talk about messaging as a state. We're going to help you with that.
Okay.
Certainly there's going to be some pushback, but we'll provide some support and resources in that realm.
So my question would be like, I feel like this is probably a mandatory thing that we've been invited to do. Like this really isn't, I'll do it or I won't. This is ran through a lot of people saying you will do this.
Yes, it was approved by the state board, so it is required.
Okay.
And it sounds to me like that's a teacher that doesn't need to be in K-3. That would be my answer to my administrators that ask the same dang question.
Yeah.
Please note on the recording, that was not Sarah Whipke saying that.
That is proudly me.
Yes. So I'm actually going to turn the mic over to Belinda. Belinda is joining us from the Davis School District. She's the Director of Teaching and Learning, and she's just going to spend about 5 minutes sharing her experience with letters. So Belinda, I will mute and let you take it for a little bit.
Thank you, Sarah. And you'll have to watch the time because I'm so passionate about letters that I could probably talk all day for it. But I just want to share just really a short experience that I've had. So when my team approached me, so I have this fabulous team that is here with us today, Ms. Angie Morales and Ms. Tracy Robbins, and hopefully Ms. Julie Barlow is here with us as well. When they approached me about, here is letters, it's the science of reading, we feel strongly we need to do this. And I started to do, sorry, I am so passionate about this that I can't hold back my tears. I did some of my own research and I said, yeah, we need to do this. I reached out to Ms. Thronson, our state curriculum director, and I said, I need your help. What can we do to get our legislators to open that money, the CARES money and the ESSER money up for professional learning? Because I know how we have to spend it here in Davis. And so luckily they did. And we have gone in hook, line, and sinker to letters training. Well, I have a philosophy that I'm not going to ask my teachers or my people to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself. So I signed up to be in our first cohort to start the letters training. Okay, so don't do what I did, which was procrastinate, because I think I'm so busy doing other things. I procrastinated doing unit 1 until the Thursday and Friday of spring break in Davis School District, because our training was on Monday. And it took me all day on Thursday and Friday to do the training. The other part was I hadn't given myself enough space to really think deeply about it. So my head hurt so bad. But I really sunk deep into that learning. And as I kept reading, we are doing so much work in Davis School District and in the state on personalized competency-based learning. And this is exactly what letters does. It gives us the training and the knowledge and the application to be able to personalize reading for every single child in our school district. I have a big goal. My big goal is that when we're complete in 2 to 3 years, that 100% of our students will be reading at their grade level K-3. And then I'm not going to stop there. We're going to go K-6, because we know that in many cases, if they're not reading on grade level at 3rd grade, that's terminal for them, that they're not going to get any better, and that we have now put them on a path of limited opportunities. So we absolutely have to do this. Anytime we invest in a teacher, that's the best use of our money. And I feel like we're investing in teachers. Honestly, we've made it our own requirement, and we've had very, very little pushback from teachers. We've had the opposite effect. How can I get in? I want this yesterday. I can't wait until next January to start this training. I need to start in June. And that has been really, really rewarding. I was out with a teacher last Tuesday, and we were talking to her about personalized competency-based learning, and the conversation naturally led to letters and this letters training that she's participating in. And she shared her own experience of, I didn't know what any of those vocabulary words were at the beginning of in session 1 of unit 1. I'm like, well, neither did I, and I thought I knew stuff. And on the pre-test, I only got a 33. And we've had teachers call and say, I only got a 33. I don't know if I can do this. And we're like, no, this is a learning. You should have only gotten a 33, but we're going to have you get 100 by the time you're done. But that teacher shared how it's changing her life and how it's opening opportunities for her. I married into a family that can't read very well. And I am discovering all of the reasons why they don't read well. My one suggestion for you, don't try it on your husband. It's not good for your relationship. But I'm able to now say, this is a problem, and this is where I can work with the nieces and nephews, the grandkids, my own kid, to get them to read. Sorry, this is the most important work we're going to do in our careers, the very most important work we're going to do. So Sarah, thanks, and I'm sorry.
It's okay. I've cried in other in other meetings before because of passion. So I totally get it, and I was holding back tears the whole time too. So I get it, and I love you sharing your. That's so important. Because everyone's story isn't the same and it is different. And I absolutely want to make sure that you're able to share your story, and we'll be working to share other stories as well. So thank you, Belinda, for taking the time to share that. We appreciate it. And even being willing and brave to share your test score. I love that. There have been a lot of people who have said, I'm a literacy director, I'm a literacy whatever, I have a master's in this and a doctorate in this, and I already know this. And then they took the pretest, like you said, and we're like, ooh, maybe I still have more to learn. And so I love that people are willing to say that. There are still some questions in the chat box and I will try to get to them, but I also want to be mindful of people's time. So what we're going to be doing then is we'll need your help. We're going to be collecting Utah testimonials to help with messaging. Belinda actually has graciously been someone who's willing to do that, and we'll have others, teachers and coaches as well. This will be part of the endorsements. So the new endorsements that are coming out in July, letters is actually one of the components, a way to earn some requirement areas of these new endorsements. So that's sort of another additional bonus. I already said we talked about USB credit will be option, potentially SUU. Again, I haven't, so I'm not sure on that yet. Implementation accountability, because we'll be providing those resources that I talked about that are on the slide as well. Like I said earlier, there will be pushback, absolutely. It won't be from everyone, but it will happen. Jason Young can certainly speak to that, or Jackie, I think, is on here as well. Generally, the pushback, if there is any, is either right at the beginning, potentially Unit 1, maybe into Unit 2. It generally doesn't go past Unit 2 before they realize, oh, this is actually really great. I didn't realize how much I needed this. So just know it's not forever, it's temporary. I am not aware of any teacher in our state that has pushed back for the entire time. I don't know anyone. So
Hey,
I
Sarah,
don't expect that to happen.
when you talk about, I'm sorry, say that at things, it says, hey, Siri. Okay, so when you, I know it always pops up. So when you say Unit 1 and 2, are you thinking Unit 1 next year and Unit 2 the following year? Are you going to do this over 2 years?
Yes, there are 8 units. So when I say Unit 1 and
Yeah, I meant book 1 and 2. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Sarah,
So
is there an option? Is there an option to run, like where we've already done Unit 1, to run a cohort for Unit 2? Like, are you going to base this district on district, or are you going to talk with us so we can say this is where we're at?
Yep, absolutely. Like I said, I already have that list from the vendor around who and what. And so we'll already know, and we'll have that conversation around where you need to start. So yep, absolutely. And then I want you to be thinking about, this isn't something you have to answer right now, but be thinking about what else can we do to support you? We want to have this strong messaging, so it's not something you have to do on your own. Although I absolutely know there are some of you who have already messaged this out and have received positive, like, we're on board, we want this, we're ready for this. So I love that you took that initiative and did that, but just know that we will be coming out with additional resources in that realm so that you don't have to feel alone in that. We are absolutely working with you throughout this entire process.
Hey, Sarah, when you say it was 8 days, is that 8 school days? I'm just wondering, because I need to propose a sub budget for my K-3 teachers through ESSER 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, so that I can get the funding for that.
It would be 8 school days. Yep. Thanks for asking that.
Gracias.
Yeah, absolutely. So there will be a survey created and sent out to gather the information up here. We need to know who the contact is. I have this for most of the LEAs, but there are about 7 that I don't. The preferred months or dates for scheduling, because obviously I may not be able to give you the exact date, but I will do my best to meet all of those things that you need. I'm more than happy to work with you. And then the exact number of your teachers, what we have right now are from Cactus, but I also know, like some of you have mentioned, there are some teachers that maybe aren't in Cactus. So that's why I specifically want to make sure that we have the exact numbers for you. Same thing with coaches and numbers of principals and VPs and school psychs. And then the geographic locations, if you have spaces, let me know. That will be part of the survey, and we'd be more than happy to use those spaces. And then be also thinking about your administrators and psych, because it only takes them a year to complete the work. You can be thinking about, do you want your admin to be all done in the first year, like 2021 to 2022? Do you want them all to take it the second year? Do you want to split them and half of your admin does the first year? That's something that we can talk about and decide. That will be up to you as far as where that aligns within. And we can have, like I said, those Midas signups for all the different cohorts so that it's not everyone's out at the same time. And then also an address, of course, for shipping the materials. We'll need that. And I'm sure there will be other things too that we just haven't thought of, but those are the ones we could think of off the top of our head right away. Again, be thinking about messaging and best dates, knowing that that stuff is coming, the number of subs and which funding source you might want to use, the number of teachers that you maybe want to put a limit on in your buildings for your districts and charters. And then also be thinking about, can your LEA contacts support the monitoring and implementation of this? Like, we want to make sure that it's someone who doesn't feel overwhelmed, obviously. So be thinking about who you want to put in place. And if you want it to be 3 people, great, just let us know. We're okay with that. It doesn't have to just be one person. And then what supports will be in place to ensure that classroom instruction is actually changing? Because again, the whole purpose for doing this is for kids. We're not doing this to be mean. We're not doing this to be state level people taking over. That wasn't the purpose or the intent ever. It was always what's best for kids. We know 47% is not okay. It's not acceptable. I don't think anyone on this meeting thinks that's acceptable. So that's just keeping that in mind. And then I have hired Norma Matta. She will be our USBE Letters Program Specialist beginning May 3rd. That's her email. And then she'll be sort of the program manager. So she'll be helping with logistics, scheduling, monitoring, data collection, sign in and sign out sheets, all of that stuff she will be helping us with. And so then I just wanted to end with a thank you. I want you to your emails, your text messages that were just like praises in all caps and a lot of exclamation points of this is amazing. We wanted this. Thank you. It saves me time because now I don't have to do it. I was already planning to do it. I just wanted you to know how much we appreciate that and appreciate that a lot of you were already jump started on doing this for kids. So thank you so much. I appreciate all of you and everything that you do. So it is 2 minutes and I do have 16 new messages in the chat box. So if you feel like you've had all of your questions answered, you are welcome to hop off. But if you want to stay on for questions, I'm going to just stop sharing so that I can better see the chat box. But I am happy to stay on for a little bit so that I can answer any questions that you have. And I know some of them may be things that you missed because I know some of you had to jump on a little bit later and that's okay. So I'm just going to go through the ones in the chat box really quickly. Yes, you can use the professional learning grant funds to cover subs or stipends if you wish. And it is part of the, absolutely, yes. And then, sorry, I'm just reading through it. So we don't have any math goals this year, but we will be talking more about that at Lit Training. So I'll sort of reserve that for that time. But math will be part of the plan, yes. Yeah. So Julie, I hope you already heard my message about the reading endorsement. And then DLI teachers, if they are a K-3 teacher, they are included. And oh, so sweet of you to be sending nice messages to Belinda. Thank you all. It was so kind. You're such a great group of people. And then Lacey, is your K-3 EL teacher a classroom teacher, or tell me a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
she is a classroom teacher. Yeah, she pulls our EL students K-3 and works with them specifically on those EL standards as well as grade level essential standards. She does both.
Okay, I would think that she would be included, but again, let me double check with the superintendency on that. I think that would be a yes, but I'll get back to you, Lacey.
Thank you.
Belinda, you have a huge fan group. I love it. Yes, Peggy, it is all the schools in your LEA because this is an LEA level project. So schools that are maybe doing better than others cannot opt out. As far as the assessments, they don't actually have to pass an assessment for this program. As far as the science of reading assessment, I mean, starting as far as licensing, that won't be till 2024, 2025. So as we get closer and closer, we'll send out more information on teachers becoming newly licensed. But for now, that's just starting as a pilot this next school year.
Sarah, within the program, this is Tana out at Uinta, they offer like a certificate of completion and a certificate of mastery. Are you going to require one or the other, or will either of them work as teachers finish?
For letters or for the science of reading test?
For letters.
Sure. Yep. We will absolutely have some kind of certificate process, even if it's just in Midas. We'll make sure that there's something provided.
Well, right. In letters, it provides with a certificate after each unit that says your hours, and you can either get a certificate of mastery if you scored 80% or higher, or a certificate of completion. Is the state going to require one or the other?
No, those
Or
are
is either
those passing scores are only if they want to be state letters facilitators. So it wouldn't be required for everyone else. We wouldn't have that level of requirement, no. Yes, we will be doing regional trainings. Wade, the shipping would be only to one address. It won't be to every school. It would just be to your local, whatever your district level type office is for your district.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Kenna, I hope you saw my private message. If you did not, I sent you one. And then Anne Marie, tell me, what is UELP?
Utah Early Literacy Plan.
Oh,
Learning plan. You know,
yes.
I don't yet, obviously we're trying to meet some of the same goals, and I'm just hoping we can braid the work together.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And you can definitely be using the section D of that plan, the professional learning grant funds, to pay for subs and such as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Natalie, we will work, like I said, with scheduling. So there will be a variety of options of cohorts as far as the length of time. For sure, it has to be over before the 2 years. That's the only real requirement because the funding runs out. Yes, this was recorded, and so I'll be able to send it out when we're done. For cohorts that have already started, I wouldn't say put any more money towards it, because you won't be able to get reimbursed, and we'll start where they need to be based on the people who've already completed the requirements. I agree, Lisa. I absolutely think teachers and students will benefit. I'm very excited. End of year results won't change eligibility because the signups have already occurred and it was based on the most recent data we had. Jason, absolutely, you can do that. Yes. Yes, Lacey, I'll be sending out a specific survey that has, like, if you have location options, let us know. And so, yeah, if you have them, we'd love to know. Finding locations is sometimes the hardest time. So yeah, it takes a lot of time, and I would appreciate that. Yes, for DLI, all of your K-3 teachers, regardless of which sort of language they're required to teach. Karen, they are all full day trainings. There aren't any half day trainings. Yes, Emily, we could definitely coordinate with you on those specific days that you have space to offer. Thanks, Courtney. I appreciate that. There probably won't be an option for Saturday trainings. I can ask. I don't know if we can require that, only because it's outside of the work week. And so I don't know if that. So that's sort of the why. I will certainly check into it though.
Hey, Sarah, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Just kind of for my own reading comprehension or listening comprehension here.
Of course, Justin.
Since I'm pretty unfamiliar with letters, although I have a couple teachers that have looked into it in the past. So if I kind of get the gist of the scheduling, if you will, a cohort would start with Unit 1. It would take about 12 to 15 hours online. And then there's an in-person training that follows Unit 1 up. And then that pattern just continues with Unit 2. How long are the I see nods, so I'm on track so far.
Yep, you're
How-
nailing it.
How long do you have to complete the online unit or the separation between the in-person trainings, if you will?
So generally, the company recommends anywhere from 6 to 9 weeks, just because it takes people that sort of range of time, and they don't really want people to be stressed out and having to do like 9 hours in one day or anything like that. So I know some districts that have done this in the past have done like whatever the early out day is. They've said, we will give you an hour every week during that early out time to work on the online course, or 2 hours every 2 weeks or whatever. I know that's kind of how they've worked it. So they've sort of thought about that ahead of time. But if someone gets it done in 5 weeks, I'm certainly not going to hold them off and make them wait longer. I don't think that would be right. So that's just sort of an about how long it takes based on the users in the national database and how long it took them. So some people were actually able to get the coursework, the online coursework, done in about 10 hours.
Okay, so assuming what you just said, then I foresee then there's going to be a lot of in-person training options then. Okay.
So many, it makes my head spin. Yep. You
Okay.
got
All right. That makes more sense of how you can send 3 or 4 teachers at a time, because you had to have 16 or so out of the building all on one day. All right.
Right. Yep.
I got
I certainly don't want you to have to worry about that. There will be an array of options in different locations, so that you don't have to have, like you said, 16, 20, 50 teachers out at once. That would just be detrimental, and I don't want that to happen. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Clarification.
And Courtney, you're right. You don't have to stay with the same cohort. It's just you just have to complete the requirements. So if you have a vacation coming up and so you can't make this date, you'll have a variety of other options, probably about 200 different date options. So I would hope that would be enough for everybody. As far as, okay, if I can't take unit 1 on this date, I have 199 other options.
Sarah, a clarification on my initial question was 8 days. Is that 8 days over 2 years or 8 days per year?
Over 2 years. That's a great
Got it.
question.
Thank
Yep. And then how soon will the dates and locations be determined? Emily, we will get that done as soon as possible. I imagine that will take a while because of the sheer number of trying to find locations and everything. But that's why we'll be sending out a survey as far as dates and such for all of you that may work, because if you already have sort of a professional learning day where kids aren't in session and you really want that to be your day, great. We'd be happy to try and work around that and make that work for you. That's why we want sort of an idea of months or dates that work really well for you, so we can start that logistical planning. It will take a while, but we'll get it done as soon as we can. Eleanor, we won't be assigning cohorts. There will be signups in Midas. So I won't be assigning you to a specific date and time. There will be options. And then, yes, Courtney, you can, absolutely. Yes, it is a huge scheduling job, absolutely. All right, well, it's okay if you have other questions that you think of later. I'm happy to answer them. I'm happy to support you and help you in any way that I can. Just reach out and let me know, shoot me an email. I'll put my email address in case you don't have it in the chat box.
Hey, Sarah, I have one follow-up question.
Yeah.
So we have cohorts, so I'm just imagining the questions. If I have cohorts of schools who are, like we have some who will be doing Unit 2 trainings in May.
Sure.
For teachers in that cohort who are K-3, if there's pushback and they want to stay with their school, can they do that? Or is there a requirement that they push pause and do national facilitator face-to-face trainings?
So they would, if the training that they already have going happens before ours start, then they can do that. They would just pick up where they left off with ours. But that's also up to how much you want to pay as a district. That won't be refunded or anything.
Okay, so they could continue up until the time yours starts, and at that point, any K-3 teachers, let's say they've done Unit 3 through summer, they need to do Unit 4 with the state facilitators. Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks so much for coming, everyone. I appreciate it. I'm gonna run to another. Oh, yes.
I have a quick, oh. Go ahead, Natalie.
Okay, I just had one question. So our school is unique with the fact that they loop. So the teachers are with the students for 2 years at a time. So we have a first through second loop and a third through fourth loop. So there'll be some teachers who are teaching fourth grade next year, but then they loop back to third. So would they be included in the training because they essentially will teach third
They
grade?
will in third grade, then yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Diane, I think that's what the D stands for, if I'm remembering correctly. I think it's Diane Nelson. The paras cannot take it, and we'll send out the cost if you want to have that training with them separately. We will send that out in the email with all the other stuff that I sort of took notes on today. So we'll make sure you get that information.
Sarah, I have a question, and I don't know if you can answer this or if it would have to be with Voyager. What if we have some subscriptions that have been paid ahead of time right now for some teachers? Can we transfer those to other teachers for, say, units 5 through 8? Or
I'm not sure. It's certainly worth asking Voyager if they'd be willing to do that. They might say the only thing they've told me is they won't do refunds or reimbursements, but they said nothing about transfer. So that's a great question. I would reach out and ask them if they're willing to do that with their contract.
Maybe we could transfer them to our paras or to our 4th through 6th grade teachers, or
yeah, they might allow that
to help out. Okay, all right. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. All right, I'm going to run to another meeting. So thank you all. And again, if you think of questions later, just shoot me an email. I'm happy to answer them. And I appreciate you all so much today. And I'm just so excited to work with all of you very shortly. Bye-bye.